is up? What is up?
Yo.
Well, here we are, episode 2 of the podcast yet to be named.
We got a couple percolating, but we haven't landed on anything yet.
We got some good ideas, guys, but you guys can throw down in the comments what you think the podcast should be named, and then we'll probably not name it that because that would be stealing, but it'll probably be sweet to see all your thoughts. So let us know down below.
It'll help us out a bunch, please.
Oh man. Well, I'm Connor, Rock Pokemon. You can find me around the internet. Excited to be here. Episode 2. I'm the co-host. You're the real host.
Yeah,
you should be doing the intros.
No, you're the host for today. Remember, we switched.
Oh yeah, it's true. I guess I am technically the host, right? So welcome to episode 2 of the podcast yet to be named about Pokemon and collectibles. I am Connor from Rock Pokemon, here with Rob from Red or Blue.
What's up, guys?
Excited to be here, man. I've been thinking a lot about this. It's been I think a healthy gap between our last episode, but I feel like I'm constantly thinking about stuff I want to talk about. It just pops up all the time. So
constantly, nonstop. I'm with you.
Yeah. A lot going on in the hobby right now.
Mm-hmm.
So gets a little exhausting sometimes, but it's fun. I think we're all having a lot of fun, and I think that's why we're here, to help make sure people, kind of stay in for the long haul and enjoy their time collecting. Hopefully we can bring a little bit of a fresh perspective to them. So where do you want to start today, man?
I think that, last time we were supposed to touch on you grading with CGC. We were talking a lot of good stuff that we were kind of discussing, but I would love to hear a little bit more about your experience grading with CGC. It's something that I feel like some people are kind of on the fence about, like me personally. Not really sure if it's something that we'd want to do, but we know it's an option, especially with, PSA and BGS not accepting these lower end submissions that are affordable for most people. And just kind of like your overall experience and anything that you'd like to share, man.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think the thing to caveat the whole deal with is that coming from growing up collecting Pokemon, but also a lot of sports cards, Beckett was always kind of in the forefront for me. I don't know if it's because of where I was or regionally in the Northeast or whatever, which doesn't make sense because they're in Texas, but I just felt like I always saw Beckett slabs. I had Beckett slabs. I still have ones from when I was a kid, random sports cards. And so I always really enjoyed Beckett. But when CGC came on the scene and started to gain a little traction, and I got my hands on a couple slabs and started to see kind of the standards they were grading with, I made the decision to kind of test them out with some modern. So this Shiny Star V card, this Ditto that Ryan from OG Retro pulled for me. It was one of the first cards I submitted to them because I wanted to just kind of taste the cooking. But as things began to play out with the grading market and prices changing, for me, while I do intend to sell a good handful of cards that I grade, a lot of them are for me too. And so I did a video on IG a long time ago, and I lined up 3 slabs of PSA, CGC, Beckett, and I kind of went through the pros and cons. And for me, from a aesthetic standpoint, I like how the label looks for CGC. I think that the cases, I do. Yeah. I know some people don't love that the grading number isn't centered. It doesn't bother me.
That's me.
Is that you? Yeah.
Oh man, me and my buddy Riley, who lives down the street. Yeah. And he's a Pokemon collector, and we'll open up packs and just have a good time. And he's he does branding for my company that I work for. So we work for the same company, and that was one of the biggest reasons why I didn't grade with them, is because we were both just that label is hideous.
It's so funny. I think that I feel like it should be something that bothers me because I'm a pretty OCD person, but it just doesn't, like, I think because there's something about the way that the blue label complements so many cards that I really enjoyed. Yes, dude. Got one of those myself.
It
Graded
does.
a couple of those.
It complements it
It
so
just
well. I
pops.
agree.
Yeah. There's something about, and so they're definitely, there was some viral, so at the beginning, right at the beginning of kind of the grading boom, especially into the first quarter of this year, early this year, there were some viral videos that went around of people like cracking CGC
I
cases open
remember
with,
that.
the chick with her nails.
Yes.
I think that was overblown, and like I think that was a little more one-off-ish, but I can say, because I have cracked a slab by mistake. Well, I didn't. My friend dropped it, but whatever. I
Mhm.
mean, if you drop a slab onto hardwood, like it's gonna potentially do some damage.
Mhm.
So, but I can tell from some of the earliest slabs that CGC put out that I handled to the slabs they have now, I can definitely tell that the quality's improved.
That's
I
good.
like that. Yeah, it's a good seam. I mean, you're not cracking that open. I feel like the card's pretty secure in there, which is really important. I think for them, because they're only grading TCG, which are fair, versus like a Bandai card ass card that are much smaller. If people don't know, they're just a totally, I mean, you probably can't tell as much, but they're a
Mm.
different shape than a standard TCG card.
I didn't know
So
that.
they usually, yeah, it's weird. When I first started getting them, when I first started buying them in mass, I was like, oh, these are they're a little, I guess a little narrower and a little shorter. They're just kind of like, it's like if you took a regular card and went like
Right.
95% or 93% down in all aspects. So,
No, I was talking
um,
about that CGC wasn't grading those.
oh
I didn't
yeah.
know that.
So CGC
That's
only
interesting.
grades TCG. So
Mm.
what happened was, so my experience, so I I wanted the optionality to grade at all three companies. And this is why I felt like BGS at the beginning was what I liked the most.
Mhm.
Um, CGC was something I knew was going to have a quicker turnaround. And PSA, I felt like I was going to get some leniency with some cards,
Yeah.
where it might be a CGC 7.5, but hopefully it can pull a PSA 8. And that gives you like a better threshold, I think. Right. So,
Yep.
you don't want to fool yourself, but if you're doing this for a value extraction play and you want to sell that, a PSA 8 probably looks better than the CGC 7.5. So
And that's
that to
like
be said,
yeah, that's the biggest reason why I haven't graded with them, like beyond the label, which is petty. I mean, I look at it now because I was really curious. I was like, I need a CGC slab. I've been seeing a lot of
mm,
traction, a lot of posts, and they look really good actually with some cards. And
yeah,
it's really not that bad. But for me, it was all about like, two things is that one, I have a lot of cards that I think would get 9.5s on CGC after watching your video and your returns, how strict they are.
mhm,
And that like breaks my heart because I know that they would most likely or have a very good chance at getting a PSA 10 just from, the small amount of returns I have done with them. And recently I just got one a couple days ago. They were
mhm,
lenient. And it
yeah,
feels good to still get the 10 though. A lot of it's for my PC, so it's like one little bit like I don't really care about that. I like the 10. It just makes me feel whole. And then the other thing is like if I do want to sell some of this stuff, it's really hard. I mean, value wise, I've been picking up CGC 9.5s when I can, and there's a lot of I just saw a Vaporeon Gold Star in a CGC 9 sell for $250 less than a PSA 8. And
mm.
it's like there's
Then an
value.
8.
Yeah. There's value across the board around CGC, and I've just been seeing
Yeah.
that. So for me, trying to like sell these cards that, I would get back, I just feel like I wouldn't get as
Mhm.
much bang for my buck.
Yeah. So I definitely like, I think the hardest part has been realizing that for now, like if I wanted to sell certain items now, that the 8.5s are tough. Like getting an 8.5 and 7.9 is a tougher sell. People aren't viewing it as a 9 equivalent. Plus, no one can cross it right now, even if they wanted to. So, one thing I would note is that what you were saying made me think of this. Like the fact that it's, a 9.5 at, like, your 10s might get a 9.5 at CGC.
Mhm.
The nomenclature is the same, right? Like I don't have many 10s because I'm not really a 10 collector, but this Bandai card is gem mint,
Mhm.
right? This CGC 9.5 is also gem mint. So I think that's something that people forget, is that like the nomenclature is fairly equivalent. And I think that, look, I'm never, at least not for now, I'm not going to sell anyone that, CGC is better than PSA right now, because I don't think anyone can really, say that, or prove it in any way. But what I will say is that I think they're trying to set a strict standard. I think they've employed technology before anyone else that has enabled them to do that. I think that's, I think the most surprising thing from my return. So anyway, so what I was saying before too, is that I wanted to grade with all three companies. So I didn't buy a membership and submit directly. I used a middleman, Jared at Canto Shark, because he like lives really close to Beckett. So I knew he didn't have to mail them again. Like I would mail them to him and he could drop them off. And a lot of my first 1 or 2 or 3 submissions this year were to Beckett.
Nice.
So yes, which I might never. I was talking to someone the other day. Oh gosh, I think they're in June of last year for bulk and like September for economy, or I forget what the nomenclature is, but so they're behind. Like I thought I might see cards by Thanksgiving, and I don't know if that's going to happen. Which is a shame, because I got some Harry Potter cards there that are super cool, and like all the things that I definitely couldn't send to PS or to CGC, and that I didn't want to send to PSA because I didn't really like I've never really liked PSA. So, but I have a bunch of these that were being graded that later it became more economical to just send them to PSA, and I couldn't send them to CQC. Right. So I liked the optionality of a middleman. You pay a few bucks extra, but all his prices include subgrades for Beckett and CGC. They do all the entering for you, which is fantastic, saves me a lot of time. So I can focus on pre-grading, which I think is far more important to me to spend time on than, entering numbers in the computer. So,
I agree.
And, it's a couple bucks more for a card, and that's fine. Like if I was a business, it's different, right? Because every cent is part of your margin, and you want to make your margins as, high a percentage as possible, right? But
yeah, I value my time more than those few extra dollars, because that's what I've done as well. I've used DCA Gaming for all of my PSA submissions, and it's
nice.
so nice just to here's the cards and I ship it. No data entry, no like worrying about because if you like label the box wrong or something like that, like they get sent back to you. Like if you don't do it correctly, like stuff happens. And so I would just like be much more comfortable like giving that to a middleman and just like, yeah, man, here's a few extra dollars a card. That's not going to kill my profit margins. Like if I do sell, and if it is, I probably shouldn't be grading those cards. Like if that's what I'm looking to do, and $2 to $3 is going to impact my costs, I probably shouldn't do it. As a casual
you're in the wrong
collector.
game. Yes, yeah. And now if you're, sending thousands of unlimited dugongs to PSA, then every cent counts, baby. But
every cent counts.
Every cent. So yeah. So my about a 6 to 7 month turn on the first submit. So I ended up having 2 submissions come back together, just because I think of the timing of mailing. They ended up going to CGC together at the beginning of February, because one was like right after New Year's that I sent in. And then one was like 2 weeks later, just because I was accumulating so many cards, and things were shifting in the hobby, prices were changing. I was just kind of getting a feel for everything, and then started to really kind of, like PS or CGC a lot more from just an optic perspective. Like I thought it was good value. And a big reason I thought that is because I was like, okay, these guys have been grading comics and other items for like a freaking millennia, right? Like as long as Beckett, right? A long time. So not to mention all the other, they have like whatever, 8 to 10 different subsidiaries, right?
Mm-hmm.
So they're no scrubs, right? It's not
Right.
like some new company, like total company that just popped up, right? So, and they
Mm-hmm.
have good assets, like human assets, people, really high quality graders, in my opinion. I felt like it gave me the optionality. Like if I, if this was a really high end card and I got it graded with CGC and it got a 9.5, and a couple years from now I wanted to sell this, and kind of realize that return, and CGC falls out of favor or doesn't make it, or it just doesn't pan out the way I think it's going to, I can just cross grade it. Like if it's that good enough a card where that's going to matter on the sale, then you have that optionality. And so, I encouraged a couple of my friends to do that, because the time and the economics on the front end, I think, made a lot of sense. And then just for me as a casual collector wanting to like grade stuff that I wanted to keep, like I'm keeping this card, like I don't need it in PSA. I don't care if it's, I felt like I was getting a good value. I felt like I was paying for what I was getting. And
Do you
I think
still think it makes sense to do so right now? Like, do you know what the turnaround times are?
so they're going in the right direction, meaning they peaked and then they've fallen off. There's like a thread I follow that has, I want to say bulks at like, it's somewhere in the 120 to 140 day range, I think. Don't quote me, but that's
That's not bad.
sometimes, no, in the website it'll say something different, but
Mm,
it's not terrible. It's not terrible. I think that's without subgrades. Subgrades usually adds a week, without it, and you can do all sorts of things at CGC, right? You can add pedigrees and you can do all sorts of cool
right.
stuff, but
That's not bad at all.
no, I don't think so. I think that, right now, like with Kanto, it's $27 a card with subgrades for bulk.
Yeah, I was
And
looking at
maybe,
that.
yeah, maybe 35 for economy or 38, I forget. Maybe more than that. But I think that's like a pretty good value right now. Like as far as like how the landscape is, right? Beckett is whatever, $300 or above, right? There's basically no options. PSA is changing, going down to 150 from 200, but still that's a heck of a lot of money for most cards. And then, all these new grading companies popping up, you got to be really careful, I think, with which horse you're betting on. And I'd rather like stick in the kind of like main trio for now
Yeah.
before I'm like pursuing another one. I'm already kind of taking a bet on CGC, right? So, but overall, I was impressed with the quality of the grading. There weren't any mistakes. There weren't any things like I vehemently disagreed with. I think I was most surprised by the fact that I was so worried in my pre-grading about centering because of the software that I knew CGC had.
I remember you saying that.
Yeah, but it ended up being the surface on things that really got me. And I have some pretty bright, I can never do this, pretty bright lights in here. And I actually grade over there. It's like even brighter and they're right on it. So I've caught some pretty tough things on surface. Like I've sent cards back to people I've bought because I'm like, there's literally like a line down the back of this that you didn't see or pretended not to see. So, yeah, I think they do a really good job. Like I think people don't realize how important surface is. Like I think at PSA, it kind of falls to the bottom rung, at least from a perception standpoint, I think. And I think it's also like, people are like, they look at the card and they think it's going to be like a 9 or a 10. And they don't realize, like, especially like these Bandai cards, like if you hold them at an angle, there's just lines running down them, or they're like, they have like kind of like weird pilling almost on the surface. Like people don't realize like how hollow scratches work and how they're really hard to see, especially if they're like kind of near where the Pokemon is. Like there's a lot to it. With modern, it's kind of like pre-grading like I have no idea how to pre-grade the surface on this card. Like how do I even begin? Like I don't know. Like my favorite thing is like people will be like, well, it's pack fresh. And I'm like, well,
Oh, that's
that means nothing. Like I was watching a Whatnot
oh
stream the other
my
day and the dude
gosh.
over and over was like, these are pack fresh monographs. I'm like, that means last time I checked, my 9.5 doesn't say pack fresh above it. It says gem mint. So that's tough. But yeah, surface super difficult with CGC. I would love to speak to someone there someday and like understand more about like how their grading works. But yeah, overall have really loved it. I wish I had more cards there. Like knowing what I know now, especially like even though the value isn't necessarily going to be there yet, for me, like stuff I sell, like I can sell into any market. For me, like that's how I operate, but I don't have to. So I
Right.
can just hold cards for as long as I want. It doesn't matter. I'm just in that position and very blessed to be in that position. So, but I also, budget appropriately, right, for what I bought and what I grade. So, out of that comes the ability to, not have to worry as much about the value from selling it. And so I wish like a lot of things I sent to Beckett that I could have sent to CGC, and even some of the stuff I sent to PSA, I did. So I'm really hoping for CGC to open up to more things like White Schwartz and non-TCG
totally.
Pokemon, like Topps Pokemon. That was one. So what happened was I sent some stuff to Kanto, and then I like double checked myself, and I was like, oh no, those can't go to CGC. So I had to like restructure and kind of switch things up. But because I created a couple Topps cards, a bunch of Bandai. So, but yeah, overall great experience so far. Would recommend it to anyone. I think that grading is one of the most fun parts of the hobby, because
really
you just kind of,
is.
isn't it like soup to nuts? You get to source the card, you get to inspect it, you get to send it in, like it's all on you. Like it's so much more fun to get a card back from a return than it is to buy it off eBay. It's so fun.
I mean, the feeling is I'm trying to like describe it to anybody who hasn't, done some type of, submission and gotten some type of returns back, but it's literally, to me, it's been the best experience that I've been able to enjoy for myself in Pokemon. I mean,
yeah,
it's awesome selling, making a little bit of money. It is fun to buy. I kind of, get to work on my collection goals, and that feels great. But you're right. There's something about sourcing that card, and especially if you can pull it. I mean,
oh yeah,
a special relationship of, pack to pull to grade, I mean, it's just seeing that,
there
holding
are
that,
cards
knowing,
I have,
man,
it's like a story like this,
yeah.
like even this, like this is a story. Like I have the screenshot of
Mm-hmm.
OG Ryan OG Retro's Twitch stream where he pulled this card for me. Like
Right.
I have the date stamp of when he pulled it. Like I'm gonna remember that forever. Like it's very cool. I've got cards like the first vintage pack I opened, the cards at Beckett. These empty slots up here. One of them is a Blaine's Charizard that I pulled off camera on my floor like it was, my grandma's freaking house in 1999. It was awesome. So yeah, absolutely. It's like Christmas, dude. Getting a return back is literally like Christmas. It's so exciting. So I highly recommend it to anyone. Even if it's just one or two like cards you really like. It's worth it. It's fun. It's super fun.
I literally checked my email, like no joke, every single day for probably about 8 months. Cause like the first like 4 months, 3 to 4 months, I know it's not coming back. I know it's backlogged, but still after that, you start to wonder, like,
yeah,
have they somehow hired more on? Is it going to come back anytime soon? And it's like that year round mark started to come around, and like, I'm just like, man. And this last returns that I just got, me and Riley, who I was kind of referencing earlier, we did like a dual submission, that we just had, I think I had like 5 or 6 cards. He had, 7 or 8 that we wanted to send in. And back then it was like, $10 a card. And it's been, I think 14 months since we got it, And so, yeah, so we submitted in, what was it, July? And so it's September. Yes, about 14 months. And that feeling, it is Christmas. And every time I buy something and I get something in the mail, like that feels really good too. And it's like, ooh, got a little package, and
Yeah.
you open it, and it's an experience, but it's nowhere near returns. Like just that feeling of looking at the card, and if you want to play the guess the grade game with yourself, whatever, or just, turn it over and seeing that grade. And it's just, it's an amazing experience. It's unlike anything else in this hobby. It just is,
Yeah. Yeah. I
absolutely.
couldn't agree more. I couldn't agree more. I'm sure it's not going to be, I know I've got cards that I'm like, might get a 7 on that, but hey, it's still really cool and it'll be really exciting. And
Yeah.
I think that I personally set it up this way where I always had cards to submit, but I tried to accumulate a certain amount and kind of chunk them out. So I sent cards down to Canto Shark like monthly, from January through like June, maybe.
That's
At least
smart.
once a month, sometimes twice. So like I should just be kind of getting cards back, drip, 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 for a long time, because some of those went to PSA, which like
Yeah.
I just, gosh, it's gonna be a long time. Maybe next June by the time I see some of those, maybe. So we'll see. It's kind of crazy when you think about it. So
I
yeah,
really wish I
highly
would have done
recommend.
that.
Yeah, it's gonna be fun. It helps with the you know, liquidity timing too, right? Like I can budget and set aside money for grading fees, but just not to have them all at once is like kind of nice, I guess. You know what I mean?
And
So
and not only that, but for me, like I think, like I mentioned before, like I think one of the biggest drawbacks is I know I'm not going to get as much money with CGC because they are tougher graders. And although you kind of mentioned earlier, like, hey, the 9.5 is a gem mint and PSA is a gem mint, but that's like trying to like sell second place as first place. You like the 10 is always the best.
yeah.
People always want it. They're going to pay that premium for it. It's kind of just the way it is, And so I know that deep down, or I have a good idea that this would have a good chance of getting a 10, even though it got the 9.5 at CGC. And so now I'm basically sacrificing, time for money, or vice versa. And so it's like, do I want to wait to send it to PSA to get more money? Or do I want to send it to CGC because I can cut the time in half, maybe even more, being able to get the card back and just pay less. And so it's like this constant payoff in regards to doing that. And so I think that like with you and having a lot and constantly doing that, it kind of like makes it a little bit easier to sell at a lower price point because you got so much coming in, as compared to like if you just got one returns and you send like 20 cards and like that's all you did, like me, like an idiot, you didn't budget for it, you're just spending money on PC or whatever. It's harder to let those go for a lower price because that's all you got, and it's like,
Right.
this is it. So I think that was super smart. I'm really bummed. And as I started doing that, as I started realizing, hey, I do need to budget for this, they shut down. It was like right at that point, which was a total bummer. But just one of those things that as soon as they do reopen, if they reopen the lower end, whenever that is, or BGS, I'm definitely going to budget out a little bit more for that.
Yeah. It's, it's harder now. Like some of the most fun parts of the hobby were searching for raw cards when everyone else was running after slabs and packs and stuff. Like I'm like, I got stuff in my vault. Like I'm good. Like, and trying, sourcing cards from Japan that I felt like really confident in, before like people knew what freaking Bai was. Like it was super fun. And it's still one of the best parts is to like source a really good raw card. But it was also stressful because you didn't know, like, I had cards coming from the UK and I was like, you had to rush to get it in because I knew the cutoff for the price change was coming. And like, it was fun and exciting for sure. But it was good to tranche it out like that. I think it's gonna be worthwhile, for sure. And it's just, at the end of the day, like a lot of it's just like authenticating and encapsulating it. Like it's cardboard, right? So at some point it's going to start to deteriorate, but if you can have it, well encapsulated and, authenticated and it looks nice as a display piece. Like, I kind of think about it like, what was I thinking about? Oh, this, whoop, whoop, this magazine over here. It was the illustration Pokemon magazine from Japan.
Mm-hmm.
And I ended up buying that little display case for it off Etsy, but I honestly thought about sending it to CGC and having them grade it just because it was literally the same price as getting a case. Yeah. Like,
nice.
So sometimes it's just that, like for people who out there who haven't graded, who are like, maybe you don't even have that nice a card. Well, maybe you want to wait till things are a little cheaper if that ever happens. But if you got one or two that are like, I just want to have this forever in a nice display, like, it's a cool option for you. So I highly encourage it. I cannot say enough about how fun it is. That being said, it's dicey. If you're trying to do it for money, that's a whole nother conversation. But it's as a collector who's enjoying it, has a diverse amount of selling and collecting and all that. It's a good piece of the puzzle.
And the dynamics have absolutely changed because 2 years ago when I got back into Pokemon, it was a 3-month turnaround time for bulk, $9 a card, 3 months. And so that's what I did. I bought a bunch of raw cards for dirt cheap, first edition WotC Hollows, came back 7s to 8s, I don't know, probably a couple weeks ago, or maybe even it was a couple months ago. And, I'm able to sell those off for a very, very good profit. And that was like, that's like how Z&G built his empire. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's what he did. He was just grading raw cards, all the time. He was meeting up, doing local deals. Like, that was Pokemon. The dynamics have changed. Like, that is no longer a thing. Like, you're not going to be spending.
The raw market is super difficult right now too.
Yeah, and you're not going to be spending $150 a card, to grade it. It's not feasible. It's not realistic. And there's a few out there, and I'm actually considering sending 2 cards in at that level now that it dropped from 200 to 150, just because I think that I could still, potentially profit off that if I want to sell it. And if not, I might just hold on to it. I don't know. It just depends, but for me now, I think what it is more than anything is like, it's a way for me to really enjoy modern, like how, like I've considered moving to Dallas just to be close to Beckett. Like, no joke. It has been a thought in my head, like that I can do that, and like, I think grading is, it's just like, we talked about how fun the experience is to get in returns. We talked about that feeling the rush. It's awesome, but it's also a way for me to like further enjoy modern, because I might open up a little bit more if I know that I can, open up some cards, send it in, to get graded, at an affordable price. And then they come back and it's like, I can either sell ones that like, that pulled that are like in very good condition, that can come back 9 or 10, and I can keep the ones that I really, really want. And like, for me, like that experience was so big coming back into the hobby of like opening up Hidden Fates and like and I still have a ton more to send in for that set, just for my PC that I really like. But I think it was just another aspect to the hobby where like, it was a cool way that you can make a little bit extra money on the side to kind of fund your PC or to, whatever, you want to go on a trip or, pay off some student loans or whatever. Like it was kind of like, an option. And now that that's no longer there, it kind of sucks. It really sucks.
It does.
Actually.
It does. Because I think a big thing for me too, is to your point, it was like, I try to make my collection free, now if I sold a few items, it would be very free, but I like them too much. Right. So, but it's like, I think about, if I buy, X amount of cards for $100 and I can sell half of them for $100 eventually. Now they're, I've debased that whole, investment, net out. Right. So, I think about that with grading too, right? If it's, I send in 10 cards and I, want to keep 5 of them, that covers the cost of the cards, the grading cost for the whole thing, selling the other 5 or whatever, just as an example, like, and it's a great way to build your PC without having to spend a lot of money. and doing it in a way that's more like, I think, personal, like collecting super personal, right? So like we talked about, that process of grading it yourself, there's something to be said for that, you know.
Oh yeah.
It's just it's just totally different. So I think that for me, I'm trying to figure out how it looks for the rest of this year. Like, I am gonna open some vintage packs when I turn 30 in November. So
Yeah, buddy.
surprise, I will. I mean, they're Japanese, so you're getting a
What are you
hollow.
thinking? What are you thinking? Let us know. What are you thinking? What packs?
Okay, I will let the people know. There will
The
be a
10
heavy
people
base
watching?
set. The 10 people, yes, maybe 7. There will be a heavy base set, heavy Japanese base.
Yes.
Um, there will most certainly be Team Rocket, because I have not opened a vintage Team Rocket pack.
Really?
And that's like my childhood set. Yeah,
Okay.
I've held off, I've waited. Um, and I have a bunch of them now. Um, and then I'm trying to figure out something in the Neo era. So maybe one from there. So I'm thinking 3 or 4 packs total. You only go into your 30s once, so
Yeah.
um,
30s.
it's gonna be crazy. So I have 3 or 4, and then I've got these Weiss Schwartz cards that I pulled that are like, I mean, they're like expensive cards now. Like raw, all these go for like hundreds of dollars, which is insane to me. And like a lot of times with Weiss, because of how the print runs work and how the rarity works, like like a lot of people who collect, they're like, they have to buy the raw ones now, because like it's not just like a TCG like hype thing. Like
Mm.
these cards just go up in value over time because there's so few of them. Like it's kind of this rinse repeat, and it always has been for the popular Weiss Schwartz sets. So got some of those, and then yeah, with modern, like I sent in some EV heroes, and then I haven't, I don't know. I'm not really into grading English modern, but I have, other cards that I do want to eventually send in, and keep thinking about sending in. So even like just the Sandshrew that I got, like I got to look at it a little closer. But like I love Sandshrew, super underrated Pokemon. Like would love to send that in, but like where am I going to send it? CGC doesn't grade it.
Right.
Beckett's $1 million, and I'm like not sure that company even exists anymore, for God's sakes. And then you got PSA doing their thing, so it'd be great if they open regular like they teased, but we'll see. We'll see if that happens. I'll believe it when I see it. So
Yeah, man. It's just sad that like people abuse the system, because this whole thing that we just talked about of, sourcing or polling and grading and that whole
mhm.
process, it does help pay for the PC. It does help, with extra funds or whatnot. But like when you're literally sending in every single card to try to squeeze out every penny from the market, that's
Yeah, it's
that's what I feel
crazy.
has like backlogged the heck out of it. It's like people are just grading very I don't want to say not important cards, because, to each his own, but like if you're just
Hmm.
like grading every single reverse hollow from Sun and Moon era, hoping to make $10 off of that, like it just seems pointless and moot. And it just feels like there's, the whole scalping mentality. It went to grading, and then like,
Yeah.
there was an opportunity to, sealed product was, drying up, and they can, find it in stores. And I mean, I saw a post on Instagram today where it's like this guy has like the what is it? The stacks, what are the wooden stacks the pallets. He's got
Oh,
pallets of
pallets. Yeah.
of sealed product that he's wheeling out to his car. It looks like from like Costco or something. You know what I mean? It's just like
Oh, I saw that. I saw that. I'm like, I don't want that to be real. Please don't be real.
it's just
Yeah,
crazy,
it steals the joy from the hobby. And there's a lot of things that are doing
Yeah.
that right now. Like obviously so there was a sweet spot in CGC where you could both send cards in like I did, like in January, right? When I sent some
Mhm.
cards into CGC, I could send it and it was pretty cheap, and I felt like I was going to get a decent value. But I could also buy them from people who were flipping them, who it's kind of like I've talked about in some of my videos, that like, if someone bought the card for $1 and graded it for $9, they'll sell it to you for 20 all day long if they're a business, right? And they'll do that churn. So there was like that sweet spot where, you know, I got some cool Japanese cards, especially for super cheap. I felt that have at least kind of like held value.
But what were those cards?
My PC.
You know, it's like they're cards that are like sought after from collectors. They're not just like some random card that gets graded.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
It's like they have some like historical context or like part of a good set or something that's kind of in demand. You know, it's not like, you know, like whatever.
Unlimited
like,
dugongs, baby. It's what I always come back to. Like, how many can the market absorb? Like, not that many. Like, who wants it? Like, and that's, you know, I think about that. So this is like kind of the future of grading and like where slabs go, right? Kind of out of that discussion of the grading experience is that like there are a lot of graded cards. I don't care who graded them. PSA, CGC, Beckett, all AGS, HSG, CBA, TYZ, whatever. They're not going to be worth the plastic they're in. Like a handful of them, like certain subsections, right? It's not like this wholesale, like everything's just going to be worth nothing. But at the end of the day, like it does come down to supply demand. Like there's no such thing as a floor just because something's in a plastic case. Like even this, like this could be worth like, who knows, you know, like, I don't know, like no one knows. Like it's not with modern, especially because it doesn't have some of that vintage draw, but even just in general, right? Like we said, like a lot of unlimited cards, especially stuff in the lower tiers. Like who's going to want a PSA for, I don't know, Weedle, like unlimited Weedle? Like how many people are going to want that? And how many are there going to be? Right. And it just kind of comes down to, you know, what that ends up fleshing out as. And, you know, I think people are going to collect differently. I don't know what you think of this. So I have this thesis that perhaps kids are going to collect differently going forward. And if physical collectibles are still a thing, they will be collecting slabs the same way we collected binders. I don't know what you think of that hypothesis, but I think there is a possibility for that to feed some demand over time for this stuff. But that being said, you know, there's still so much of it.
That's funny because I remember hearing that in that podcast. Was it with OG Retro or with Jess?
I actually, I think I did talk about it with Ryan and Kuzi. I remember
you touching on it a little bit, and I thought that was a super interesting point. I'd like never really thought about that, but I mean, back in when I first got into the hobby and I was dumb enough to watch guys like, you know, I'm not going to name names. Let's just say
we don't want to name names.
The incredibly over emotional people pulling random cards that nobody cares about, those type of channels. And they have a lot of kids on their channels, you know, and it's like these kids know what like a PSA 10 shiny Charizard is from Hidden Fates. Like they know what that is, you know? And so I think that I don't know if it'll be the same as like us, because at the end of the day, kids are kids, and across the board, they're going to be broke. They're going to have money. And so even if they're lucky enough to get a Pokemon card or a booster box or a couple packs or whatever it is, I don't know. They'd have to be some pretty rich kids to be collecting slabs already, or they'd have to be doing some serious chores or getting some serious grades, because even right now, most slabs are still pretty pricey. Even if you rate a slab at $30, $40 for a kid, I was not getting that kind of money for anything.
Same.
You know,
now if they end up being $5, you know,
that's a different story.
$3, that's a different story, right?
Absolutely a different story.
So like people, like I think about, especially the people grading modern bulk, right? Like modern non-hollow, like I don't know how, you know, it's too early. Like I try to keep track of those like earlier sets, or excuse me, newer sets, and it's too early. Yeah, like I love those. Those are, dude, those are like the two from the set. They're awesome, but like I don't need that in a slab. I mean, if someone for their personal collection wants that and they want to keep it, God bless them. But people doing it to try to sell it,
it's
I'm
ridiculous.
sorry, you are making a mistake. Okay,
it's
like
ridiculous.
it's crazy to me. Like I have like, I have like cards on top of this box over here where I'll just pick commons that I like and uncommons. And I have like binders of artworks that I like from modern stuff. Right. So for Japanese, I usually do the full set. If I opened it. For English, I just kind of pick, some that I like, like the, I think in English, they're all in Hidden Fates. What is it? Like the Ekans that has the mole trace in the background or whatever. It's like the three birds are in the background of three different cards. They were across two sets in Japanese, I think. But anyway, like random artworks like that I just think are cool. Like I should have a binder, but I don't need to grade that. I'm never like, it just doesn't make sense. Like that's someone's paying me 3 cents for that at an LGS. Why would I pay $27 to put it in a plastic case? Like for me personally, right? Or try to like sell, like that's trying to, squeeze blood out of a rock, right? So
it's literally people sitting there thinking, how can I abuse the system? Like, how can I take the cheapest, lowest entry point and get the maximum amount of return? And like, don't get me wrong, we all want that, but don't be a scumbag. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, it just blows me away that people are willing to do pretty much anything. They'll just sit there and think about like, what can I do to make money? And this is what comes to their head. And it just blows me away.
Well, here's where this, I think, because we're both guys that think a little more broadly about this, I guess, or in a bigger context. So the way I think about it is we're in a time where like the barrier to entry to attempt to be an entrepreneur in any aspect is lower than ever.
So low.
But there's probably like, and I would say like, at first I'm like, well, then there's like, about the same average of people who are, have that actually innate ability and can be successful. I think because of the way our culture is and how kind of, for lack of a better term, dumbed down a lot of society has become by social media and by just hype and lack of, in the large failure of the majority of our education system, but we won't get into all that. There are actually less people who are qualified to be doing that, but everyone just like people just want to make money as quick as they can. They've gotten used to in this acute period, like because of, and I'm a crypto guy, but because of crypto, because of meme stocks, because of Pokemon, because of sports cards, because all these things, you have new entrants into the various markets who like think that's the norm. And this is something I stress on my channel. And I know you throw caution to as you show, cards getting cut in half on your channel. Like trees don't grow to the sky, right? And you have to like, it's not like it hasn't always been like this. And people say, well, everything in Pokemon went up over time. And I'm like, God bless you. Yeah. Cause we also hit the, accelerant into this year and basically dragged forward 10 to 20 years of returns into 18 months.
And we'll see how much of it lasts.
Yeah. And I think about like, I don't know, there's so many things I think about, but like with like modern sealed too, like I think it's a really interesting space, and we'll probably talk about it more in a different podcast. We don't have to go down that route, but I think it's like, I don't know. I don't think it's going to pan out the same way that people think. And I think that a lot of people don't realize that they have to do basically business at scale for it to actually move the needle in their life. And people don't understand opportunity costs. Like if I took $1,000 right now and I bought, I don't know, let's say that could get me, we'll call it average rate, 10 boxes of EV Heroes, right? Maybe if I'm lucky and I get them at $100, excluding everything else, what if I had put that $1,000 into, I don't know, me as a 29-year-old who makes a average salary, a Roth IRA, and it invested it, 100% in equities over time, and the market doesn't tank tomorrow, and it just kind of keeps steadily going up and compounds at an average return of 5 to 10%, somewhere in that range over the next couple years, whatever, if we're lucky. Like that's like the opportunity cost of me buying those boxes and saying, hey, I think I should keep this sealed and see what happens. Like on a risk adjusted basis, you're taking way more risks there. It's not diversification. It's not any of this BS. You're making a bet basically, right?
Yeah,
On an unproven, unregulated market that's very kind of, hype driven and social momentum driven. Like even people always say that, they're like, yeah, but this box doubled over the past year, or it's, doubled in 6 months. And I'm like, yes, but with what level of risk associated with it? And
yeah,
then after, like at the end of the day, what'd you really net in your pocket,
right.
And all the people don't think about like the time they spend on this. Like even for me, like the time I spent pre-grading cards that I'm selling, like my time is pretty valuable to me.
Absolutely.
And that doesn't get factored into the spreadsheet I show people on the screen and with the pretty ROI numbers. So all that to be said, I don't know how we got here. It's probably my fault, but I think that well, it's really that, yeah, that people are trying to squeeze blood out of rocks, and that, there's joy to be had in this hobby. And I think, it would be a lot better if people would just calm down a little bit. But people want to try to make money in any way they can nowadays, and some of them are going to win, but a lot of them are probably going to lose.
Yeah, and I think like the important thing for me to remember is that like I was one of those guys that saw an opportunity to not only enjoy this hobby and start to get back into Pokemon, which I did, but to make a little money as well. I totally saw it. I saw the potential and I started buying, and I started selling. For me, the biggest thing that I have to remember is that like there's there's a certain amount of morals that I need as a seller in regards to starting that entrepreneurial side of me. I can't be a scumbag seller. I can't just like, because I can buy and sell something that I should. You know what I mean? Like I have to have some level of ethics inside to be like, this card is not worth this much. I'm not going to sell this for this much, even if it's like going down that road, like this common Pikachu. Like I love it too. It's so cool. I pulled it and it's awesome. But like if somehow somewhere out there, like somebody's willing to pay like $80 for it, it's not worth that, And like I have to have
Yeah.
that as a seller. And like there's been lots of times where I've could have gotten more money for stuff. You know what I mean? Like
Mm-hmm.
especially riding the whole hype train and like hyping things up and doing all that stuff. Like you can do that, but at the end of the day, I
Yeah.
have to go to sleep loving myself, and I can't do
Yeah.
that. And like you get back what you put out, and it's just that simple. And it's like for me, over time, that actually has yielded me, I think, in my mind, more profits, more this, more that, because it leads to me building relationships because people want to
Yes.
do business with other genuine good people. And so like even if I
Yeah.
could sell it for X amount on that one off and like made triple my money, like I totally cut that tie because later on, like they're probably gonna be like, dude, I just got scammed, or like I overpaid for this and this guy was a douche, whatever it is. And so for me, like I need to have these morals as a seller. If I am going to jump into that market, if I am going to step into that role of like, okay, I do want to make a little bit of money. I see an opportunity. It's just like with any business. You go into a store and they don't ream you, like we keep going back to certain stores because we like the customer service. We like the way that the store looks. We like their prices. We think it's fair. Like there's this whole entire like, dynamic to it. And I have to apply that same mentality to my selling because at that point in time, I am starting some type of entrepreneurial business type of thing. Even if I don't think it, even if I'm like, oh, I'm just a casual collector doing this every once in a while, I have to be professional in every single transaction, every single message. I can't just like go off the cuff and just say what I want, do what I want. Like it doesn't work that way. If you want to build long-term relations and like have somewhat of a successful end result, if that makes sense.
I couldn't have said it better myself. I couldn't agree more. Like the with what I said, with there being such a low barrier to entry into like kind of buying and selling, being part of a marketplace nowadays with the internet, with Instagram, whatever. you start to realize like a lot of people don't either want to or don't know how to conduct themselves professionally in like a transactional interpersonal business setting. And I can't figure out sometimes if it's like on purpose or not, but like the audacity of some people is wild.
Yeah, it's
It's
wild.
wild. The things people will say over the internet behind their keyboard is just wild to me. And I couldn't agree more. Like I wrestle with this a lot. Like I was talking to OG Retro about this yesterday. I've talked to a couple other friends about it. Like I always like kind of get a weird feeling about like if it doesn't seem like someone should really be buying the thing from me, I want to like caution them not to, but it's always hard to communicate that, right? So like if someone's, you know, like saying, you know, maybe they don't have the money because they're not paid yet or whatever, like maybe it would be better for me to always just say, well, you know, no pressure, I'm just going to walk away. Like instead of just saying, okay, let me know, like I can just say like, nah, it's cool. Like, cause I don't need the money. I'm not in a position where I need to do that. And even if I was, again, to your point, we still have to like live with the morals that we like intend to strive for, right? That we want to be the best versions of ourselves. And in that comes for like loving other people really well.
Yeah.
And there is something to be said for treating people super well and like taking care of them, even if it's transactional in nature, because they go away from that like having a higher standard for how they should be treated as a person, but also with some level of, I think like it's like standards in dating, right? Like they're not going to go to the next seller and now like be willing to be like treated like crap or to be like scammed or to be, you know, to be like, I don't know, like gouged is really the right word I'm looking for. Like, and it's, you know, I don't know. I do stupid little things too. Like every order I send out gets like free bulk and I put a handwritten, you know, little thing in there. Absolutely. And I've gotten the same thing from like sellers and I love like, it shows that they care. Right. And so, and to your point, yes, it's, I've built some of the best relationships through like the first transaction we did was, or the first time we really talked was when I bought something from you. And it wasn't just like, I was like, hey bro, want your pack? Thanks. Here's the money. It was like a conversation. We talked about the 291 versus 300 yen packs. We were like going back and forth about how much we love it. Like, and part of that is that like, when it's an interaction between like people that actually like love to collect this stuff, it does end up being different. Now it doesn't have to. Like I know people who just sell, like they like obviously they have a thing for like TCGs. Not it doesn't necessarily have to be Pokemon or whatever, but they sell and they do a great job and they have great customer service. And it doesn't mean that they like necessarily have as big a personal collection as any of us, but they like understand how to like treat a customer really well.
They can be speedy and still have excellent communication, customer service skills.
Yeah. So, and it's, you know, it's what's going to allow certain people to last like in the hobby and have a really strong network and have people who have their backs and who look out for them. And it's what overall propels the hobby forward, like in a really healthy way. So
absolutely, man. And like, I guess just the final note that I'll say on this, and it may be the obvious one, it's like, you know, and I talked about this, I think on the last podcast that like, I love Call of Duty, you know, but it's a very toxic community. Like you hop on and people are like you talk a little mess. It's fun. But like, I'm telling you, like these people are straight up being like racist and like very demeaning. And like, it's like, I'm listening to this stuff and like, I'm not going to repeat some of these things, but it's literally like, man, like, do you really want to be saying this as a person right now? Like one human being
Yeah.
to another, and just like blindly hating somebody that you've never met. And it's like the same thing in Pokemon. And like, if everybody's just here to make money and like, let's get to the most amount of money with the lowest transactions, like I'll have people like reach out to me and be like, hey, I'm going to offer you X amount final offer. And it's like, no, like you're really going to try to bully me into like giving you half the price of what I'm listing a card for. Like there's no interpersonal
Yeah.
skills. There's nothing. Like, even if like sometimes I'll see a card and I'll ask when I put in the offer, and I'll say, like, let's say if it's at 500, I'll put an offer and I'll say, hey, would you be willing, are you open to selling this at 450? Like even just something like that. It could be speedy and professional, like, but not trying to bully me into like, oh, I'm not going to sell this card and here's an offer, I better take it, like that. Like that whole mentality it's just, it's not going to continue this hobby to the next generation. Like, because that mentality, that attitude spreads like wildfire. And we've seen it like on Instagram. We've seen like, the whole scalping thing. And like when prices got really expensive, I saw a lot of people complaining on Instagram. And when prices dropped, I saw a lot of people complaining on Instagram. Even YouTubers like really like whining and complaining about this stuff. And it's just like, it blows me away.
Yeah.
You see this like, and it's not just like a little bit like, oh, talking about it. And we kind of like, might have some feelings, but they're genuinely like forcing how they feel upon other people. And just, it just kind of blows me away. So when you have this like mentality of being a bully or being mean or sitting behind a keyboard and just typing something smart, remark to somebody to like make yourself feel good because you think it's funny, maybe other people will read it, whatever, it like leaves the hobby in a worse place. And like that catches on, instead of like me and you, or, a lot of other guys, especially that watch, our channels, are really solid people, solid members in this community, that like try to do a little bit better, even if that means at the loss of like, something to us. Maybe it is a few, monetary dollars, or, it takes a little bit extra time to write that hand note, whatever it is. Like we're trying to like leave it in a better place because we genuinely care. Like, and you can do that as a collector, you can do that as a seller, whatever it is. But that stuff catches on, and like misery loves company. You know what I'm saying? But positivity is contagious. And like, I love that. You know what I mean? Like I'll see something positive and something uplifting, somebody talking about it. And I'm like, I want to be friends with him. I like that guy.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And that's cool.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. That's how I've made so many of the connections in this hobby, is just seeing the positive like emotion people have about, like, that is genuine, right? That you can start to read people and know, when they're being super genuine about like the stuff that they love, and that they truly like are like, they get a lot of joy and they want like that joy to like overflow to other people. And it's not just like, hey, would you be interested in like maybe selling at this price? And they just put like X number of dollars and they just don't send anything else. I'm like, this isn't a fun transaction. This isn't, I don't know. It's a weird dynamic right now. It's a super weird dynamic right now with just I don't know. I think it's a little bit of a degradation of like, not necessarily just like moral standards, but just the way that like people have forgotten that when you are speaking to someone through the internet, it is a human on the other side.
Right.
And you would not say that to them or treat them like that if you were in person.
Right.
But at the same time, like, oh my gosh, like, what if this is the way that these people are like really treating people in person? That's a scary thought. And that's, something I hope that isn't the way, that society's going. But
I think that
I
transitions well into our next segment of, yes, there are scumbags out there. There are bad people doing bad things, and they do act that way. And
please tell us what happened.
The hobby is full of scammers. It is. And I could start. I'm happy to. I had an experience recently, guys, where if you follow the channel at all, I'm, recently gave away a PSA 9 Call of Legends Groudon Hollow, and it was actually sent to me by a fellow subscriber who sent me a Japanese booster box, black and white booster box, Dark Rush BW4, and said, "Hey man, I'd love for you to open this up and pull me a full art." We ended up getting the Entei. It was hype. It was awesome. So much fun. And he also sent that card and he said, "Hey, give this away to your subscribers." Like, talk about good feeling, good moment, like awesome. Like, and that's like $100
It's
card.
super cool.
You know,
Yeah.
that's a vintage, well, semi-vintage, from the year 2009, 2010, called Legends. And through the giveaway, I picked a guy's name on the random comment picker. It was Daniel Tedesco. And I had an email hit my inbox saying, "Hey, I'm Daniel. I won your giveaway. How do I claim this?" And what was funny is that at the time I was working, and over the next 2 hours, I got 3 or 4 more emails saying like, "How do I claim? How do I claim?" Da, da, da. Very like pushy, very forceful, trying to like get this, done. But what was like odd to me is that the comment that he left was, "I love your channel. You got me back into collecting. I started buying a couple of slabs. I've been having so much fun." It was super genuine, super honest. And usually those people, when they win a giveaway, because I've had lots of them where people win, they say something like, "Oh my gosh, I can't believe I won. This was so much fun. I enjoy watching you." Not that I like need this praise, but that's usually how it goes. Like, and that's what I've done with other people. "Hey man, really love your content. Thanks for all you do with the community," whatever. They like kind of, don't jump to the finish like, "Where's my stuff? Give me my money."
Yeah.
give me my giveaway.
Yeah.
They like ease into it. "Hey man, really appreciate what you do. I'm glad to have won. Please let me know what I can do," And it wasn't like that. And so like I got like this spidey sense, it started tingling like something's off. And so I looked at the email, and on Yahoo it said like Terra something. And I was like, okay, this is weird. Didn't make any sense. And it was one of those emails where it was like TIS@gmail.com. And so I was like, none of this stands for like Daniel Tedesco. There's no initials in there that has him. And then so what I asked them to do was, "Hey, can you write a comment on my last video that just says, 'Thanks, Rob'?" And they did that. And the logo for the D was different than the logo for the D from Daniel Tedesco, meaning that they went and created a new YouTube account with Daniel Tedesco. But what happens is every single time you just put in a name and you don't put in a logo, YouTube will associate a random color and they'll put the first initial. So if you went on with Connor, they would give you a C for your logo and they give you a random color in the background. It was not the same color. Yeah. And so they took a screenshot. They took a screenshot of their account saying, "Look, this is me. It's Daniel." And I was just like, no, this is not happening. And so crazy enough, I told them, "I know a scam when I see it. I'm sorry. This doesn't match up. Nothing what you're saying is adding up. None of all that stuff." I just clearly stated it very nicely, and just said, "I'm sorry, but I'm not going to ship you the card," And they tried to give me some sob story about, "Oh, I'm Tara and that used to be my husband," and da da da. And I'm like, well, if you can have Daniel reach out himself, I'd be happy to send it to him. And 2 days later, the real Daniel Tedesco messaged me and he said, "Dude, I'm so sorry. I've been so busy. I've been meaning to reach out." And he, gave a nice little warm welcome and saying, "Am I too late to claim the prize?" Crazy, right?
For the things people will do for a piece of shiny cardboard, like,
and
it's insane.
And what's even crazier is that I'm a small channel. So like these people are somehow scouring YouTube for giveaways, for looking at this. And I bet this is not the first time they've tried this. And I'm curious about how many other YouTubers maybe these people have scammed or they've tried to like,
I'm sure it's some systematic sale of like of people in wherever, it could be in the United States, could be somewhere else, but there's, I mean, it's so easy, right? Like, I mean, the the level of cybersecurity protection that we have to put in place now, like in my business, especially in finance, like it's insanity. Like I feel like I have to do a new thing every day to like protect us from what's out there.
So annoying, man.
Oh my gosh. Promote now. Promote it on this, this.
Dude.
Oh my gosh. But it's like, it's, you know, and it's the same with the freaking bots with the buying and the scalping. But like, man, I cannot believe, like, good on you for like feeling that out though, and like knowing that something was, you know, awry. Cause I'm trying to think, I've done like 2 giveaways before, and thinking back on it, like I know they were both legit, but now I'm gonna be like extra cautious next time I do one, like for sure. Man, dude, I have never had anything, to my knowledge, unless I got scammed, drastic happen to me. I've had some, you know, some bad eBay sellers who I have had some like weird, bad eBay experiences, but always ended up playing out in my favor because eBay's decent about that.
Yeah.
It's hard, man. It's, you know, just the internet's hard to navigate. People can create a very convincing facade with a pretty minimal amount of effort, which is just wild. But yeah, I think that, you know, for everyone out there, it just goes to show, like, especially because so much in this hobby happens like on social media, and we haven't fully gotten to that place where like all these in-person events are happening and all these transactions are happening behind the scenes and all these collectors are meeting in person, like a lot still over the internet. You got to like protect yourself. Like, we were saying this before we started the podcast, like people freaking YOLOing money to people they've never spoken to before, ever. Like I never spoken to before, can't get a reference for, like, and it's like, it's too easy, guys. Like people out there are so good at scamming other people. Like it's just
really
like,
are.
You got to protect yourself. Like you gotta, oh gosh.
Yeah. And it comes in all forms too. And I just have one more small story that happened to me recently. And it's heartbreaking, dude. Like I got scammed. Scammed. Yeah, I got scammed. And it's heartbreaking because we were talking about, okay, let me get into it. Here we go. All right. So 2 years ago, opened up a Team Rocket booster pack, Japanese, pulled the vial plume, sent it to get grading, got the card back, PSA 10. Okay. I decided that I'm going to sell that card. By the way, guys, if you ever grade a card and it comes back 10, just keep it. Because as soon as that's sold, and I mean, as soon as somebody bought it, I instantly said I shouldn't have done that. Like it was just an instant regret moment because I was like, oh, I'm going to use this to fund other goals. I don't really collect vial plume. I'm not going to go for the whole set. So it just makes sense. But there's that emotional connection. And so that was my mistake. But so I sold, I sold it and I sent it off, I believe. Let's see, I sold it and then he wanted a return. Okay.
Oh no.
And
this is on eBay.
Yeah. And this is on eBay. And I've never returned an item on eBay, you know? And so it's like, I wanted to be a good guy. I wanted to accept his return. Like, no worries. He said that he gave me some BS excuse about there was some whitening on the card or something like that, or there was something along the backside of the card that he didn't see in the pictures and he wanted to return it. And it's like, okay, whatever. Like, I want you to get your money's worth. Like it was, you know, $200. So I don't want you to, like, again, being a moral, you know, person in the hobby, you know, instead of saying like, screw you, dude, like, no, which people have told me before, you know, I just said, no problem. And I hit accept return. And
oh no,
I didn't know.
It sent him the money back.
I didn't know that, like, you're supposed to, like, there's a button that you print out the shipping label, you know, and or you send him the link to print out the shipping label. and he'll send the card
Yes.
back. And then as soon as I get the card, then I refund it. I just refunded. I
Yes.
didn't know, you know? And so I hit the wrong button, and I called eBay and I told them, I said, hey, this is a scenario. Here's what happens. And they totally said, there's
Non-recourse
nothing we can do.
policy. Yep. It's over once that money's back.
I couldn't believe it, man. And I messaged the guy a few other times just saying like, hey, man, I know this is a scenario. I'm hoping for a little bit of good human faith. Can you be sympathetic with my situation and return the card? I'll return your money, you know? Nothing.
Yeah.
Totally silent. So it's like there's all forms of scams. This was no inclination that this guy was a scammer, but I bet he's
I'm
done
gonna
it
tell you, man,
before.
if that was me, I would put his freaking eBay ID out everywhere. I'd be pumping the cert number of that card out everywhere. Like it's a big hobby, but man, that card's somewhere. I mean, and I know that's probably not the first inclination, but it's not to, you know, like, I don't know. I would bury that guy. You know what I mean? Like I would just
I know, man, it's tough, you know, and like I
just
said,
want to like put him
more
on
than
blast,
anything,
you know?
more than anything, like it's like that's the card I graded. And again, it's my fault for selling in the first place. I shouldn't have done that, you know, but it just like more than anything, I was like really sad that like somebody would not be willing to give it back to me, that there are people out there that are just like, oh, look at this idiot. And he probably called me a dozen names, like, you know, not giving this back, like just came up on a card. Like that sucks.
Yeah.
You know?
I've had that happen where then what did we do? Like they messaged me a label. So they eBay messaged me like an attached photo of the label. And then and then I sent it back to them. It was like this was a long time ago for like it was like a Neo Destiny pack that came damaged from Japan. And I wanted to send it back, and they did that same thing. And then I was like, oh my God, how are we going to do this? It's freaking Japan. And like,
right.
I'm not going to go to FedEx and like, I don't know. I was like, how are we going to do this? So they figured out how to do it. But yeah, that's super tough with eBay. There is no recourse once there's no liability for the buyer whatsoever once that happens. And
for the seller,
I'm hoping, yeah. So there's no obligation for the buyer to do anything. They are scot-free when that happens. Once that return's been accepted. So, and I don't know why they like. I don't know why they like. This is why I love. So Mercari's weird in a lot of ways, but I like it because it's blockchain based. So basically, what happens is I make a sale. Like I sold a couple Xbox games this week, right? I make the sale, print out the label, package it up, gets sent out, right? I mark it as shipped.
Mm-hmm.
They generate the label for you, super easy, right? Same deal. And when the package arrives with the buyer, they have 3 days to mark it as received and then rate you. And then you rate the buyer, and then the money is released to you. And through that, it's like this multi-step verification process. Like, yes, scams can still happen, but then like on the return side, it works in the same way, right? So I have to get it back in the condition I, sent it in, and then the funds are released back to the seller or the buyer. So eBay needs to step up their game in that regard. I know they're doing a lot. There's things I love about eBay, and there's things that weird me out. Like today, seeing them, they've been posting about freaking the Pokemon Oreos, and they have a whole page for celebrations. And I'm like, you are encouraging like scalping. Like you have people with $110 ETBs on there that they pre-ordered for GameStop for $50, and there's supposed to be a 30-day pre-order window, I'm pretty sure, for eBay, and that sure as shoot is more than 30 days away when they were posting that,
I don't know
August,
how people get away with it.
I think it's like kind of like they've grown beyond their ability to like control their user base, right? For better or for worse. But it's like, dude, I've I and Jess from Geeked Out Collecting, her and I talk a lot about these Bandai Prism cards.
Mm-hmm.
And what I think happened with these cards is that, so on the back at the bottom, it says made in Japan down here. And I think there were ones that were like printed in Hong Kong or China, like at the same time. And they don't have that, but they've been graded by PSA as authentic. Now, I don't know if they are authentic or they're technically not authentic. They're probably not from Japan, but they might be real. I don't know enough about what Bandai was doing in 1995 or what was probably 97, 98 to tell you that. But I've seen a lot of those out there, and I'm like, I don't think these are legit. Like, you're selling these as Japanese cards and they're just not. So we'll, a lot of times we've messaged similar sellers or the same sellers and been like, hey, like, do you, same with Pat guy that we've sent some back and forth, the guy with the scale on the rug.
Oh yeah.
And I'm like, I've messaged with him and explained to him, these are the weight ranges for Japanese base packs, and 291 and 300 yen. And it's like a benefit of the doubt situation. Like, you want to give people the benefit of the doubt. And like, my friend and I always like joked about that in college when we were like dating or like talking to like women in college, like where we want to give them the benefit of doubt of like actually being a good person. And then we were like, oh no, you're just like the rest of them, run away. But like, you want to give people, it laugh because whenever I say benefit of the doubt, I think of my buddy Chris in college. But
that's awesome.
You want to give people the benefit of the doubt, right? You want people to think they're good. And like, guys, people are bad.
Yeah.
People have, it is not in our human nature to necessarily do what is best for others. People are always going to turn to look out for themselves first and foremost. For better, for worse, right? So don't send people money over the internet unsecure. Don't give people your names. Don't give people your addresses. Don't go meet with them in random places without, having some backup or protection, or meeting at a bank for a big transaction. Like, like when you did that big transaction, you guys met at the airport, right?
We met at the was it the Holiday Inn? It was somewhere. It was nice. It was
somewhere with cameras, right?
And it was like in the lobby. It was in the lobby.
Yeah. Public place, like cameras, like So, and that's a guy that you knew through me that like I had trust and rapport with, but like, you never know, right? So all that to be said is, I kind of live by the trust no one and verify twice mentality nowadays, even though I want to give people the benefit of the doubt. It's too easy to get scammed, guys. So
that's what I was going to say, especially with Pokemon, it's way too easy. And, before we get into underrated, overrated, which is going to be quick this episode, because we're reaching that hour mark. How to spot a fake account. You know what I mean? Like, how to spot a fake Instagram account. Cause I come across them all the time. And like, for me, the biggest thing is, one, the prices are way too low. Two, they have a lot more people that they're following as compared to how many followers they have. And three, the biggest thing, and it's just such like a duh moment, is these people are dumb enough to grab so many different pictures from different accounts, and they'll have different backgrounds from the item. Like, typically when I'm selling something, you have a similar background to your other things that you're selling. So if you have a post, multiple posts in a day, or like, let's say 3 or 4 posts within a week, you're not going to go all around the house taking different pictures in your house, your kitchen, your hand color is different. Like, it doesn't work that way. Not
if you're selling it. Nope. You're hitting that best spot every time. Best photos.
Yeah, exactly. You get your setup, and that's that. And maybe if you're some crazy photographer that wants to go out there and you're doing awesome, but make sure they're trusted, you know what I'm saying? And so, so that's like the warning signs. And then the other warning signs are when people are trying to bully you into friends and family, or Venmo,
or Zelle.
Yeah, Cash App.
I'm Zelle only. I'm Cash App only.
Oh man.
I'm very trusted on here, but I'm Cash App only.
Right.
No. Guys, first
Yeah.
transaction you ever do someone like, I want to say any amount, but like, you know, look, if you freaking send someone $2 and they don't send you a card, like it's not the end of the world, but like be reasonable here. Like PayPal goods and services, like you can offer to cover the fee. Like you can calculate it in where like there's calculators on, I don't know if they do it on PayPal anymore, but you can basically say, I want the seller to net this much. And there's little calculators online. It's, whatever it is now, 3.5% or whatever. But you can say, if I got to pay $800, I guess send $827.32 or whatever, and they'll get 800 net. Just, it's worth it, especially on these high-end transactions.
Yeah.
Especially on them. There are only a couple people in this hobby that I transact with on the high end that I don't send goods and services anymore. And that's because we've become friends. But that's not necessarily the right thing to do, because it only takes one time, and you've never met these people for the most part in person. Some of them I have, but not all of them.
I'm trying to think what I was going to say. I totally lost my train of thought. Damn it. I had a good thought too.
I talk too much. I'm sorry.
No, you're good. I just, it's 6:30, and it was a crazy work day, but I think that like the Instagram accounts are very easy. You also have like the eBay, you know what I mean? And so obviously if you got zero feedback, it's like a big warning sign. But
oh yeah, guys, I know everyone's got to start somewhere, but zero feedback is a no-go for me. Immediate no.
And I'm that 99.9% of the time. But there are times, and what I'll do just to get a feeler out, and it's a way to like gauge if you want to risk, because it's still going to be a risk. And I risked. In fact, all these blisters in the back row here were from somebody with zero feedback on eBay. Yeah. And the way I was able to do it is that I messaged this person and I asked him, hey, my name's Rob, potentially interested in this listing, would love to know where you got them. And just started a conversation, and I started to get an idea of like who this person is. Now, I've been scammed before when I first got back in the hobby on Mercari, of somebody gave me this perfect elaborate backstory. I got all my money back, but they gave me this perfect story. So that's not enough. And so like for me, what can help you a lot is say, can you take a picture of today's date with your eBay name next to the item,
coin
but
it.
Even then, at least that shows that they have the item, because a lot of people won't even have it. They'll just take other pictures, upload that, and then they're out. So at least now I know that they had the item. And because of his story of what he said, like, hey, I'm a little bit of an older gentleman, kind of had this collection for a little bit for my kids, and I'm just kind of looking to get rid of it. I don't have any experience. I'm very new here, but I'm willing to work with you. I'm willing to kind of work on a deal, and kind of, if you're willing to help me out. And so was just kind of gauging that. He did everything that I needed to, front and back of every single blister with the thing, checked out condition, checked out everything. And at the very end of the day, it was on eBay. So I said, hey, at least I have that buyer's protection at the end of the day. Now, I don't just go willy-nilly spending that money, because if I do end up getting scammed, that means that X amount of money is in purgatory. So it's like in that time, yes, I'll get it back eventually, but in that time, something else could have came up where I could have bought that. And that happens to me on a daily basis. I see deals and I'm like, ooh, if I had the funds, I'd do that. And so it's never like, okay, well, eBay's just going to protect me, and that's great. And they will. But, again, it's that opportunity cost. Like, what could I have been spending it on something else? Like, what am I missing out on? Because there have been times where that ultra deal comes up, or that auction ends at that one thing, and you don't have the funds to do it. And that sucks. So that's kind of like my system. And I've messaged a lot of people asking for, the name next to the item, never get a response. They'll talk beforehand. They'll give me the story, but as soon as I ask that question, they won't do it. So It's just about like, what are you willing to risk? And like my entry point for those blisters were very good. I got them for a very good price. And so I was like, okay,
Yeah.
I'm willing to risk X amount of money. And even if it does a scam, eBay will get it back to me in a month. And I actually just sold, my $30,000 sale. So I had a lot of extra funds. So it was just like the right timing. Everything kind of lined up where I'm like, if $2,000 gets, put on hold for, let's even just say like a month or two, I'm totally fine with that.
Yeah. Yeah. That's super good advice. I completely agree with all of that. So
yeah,
no more to say there, I don't think, on my end, but just think before you buy.
yeah.
Good place to start, guys.
Yeah.
Critical thinking will get you a long way in life. Trust me. It'll save you a lot of anxiety too.
And maybe, I don't know how quick we can do this because I think this is our favorite segment,
It's the
I'd love
best,
to
but
know,
we'll make a short one. Yeah.
I'd love to know, and maybe we just make this a little longer podcast, whatever, like,
Yeah, whatever.
I'd love to know underrated, overrated. What do you want to start with?
Underrated.
Go for it. Let me hear it.
All right.
Lay it on me, Big Daddy.
Jumbos.
Okay.
Jumbos are underrated. And I used to be a jumbo hater, and I have been picking them up. I've always had them on my radar, especially a lot of the Coro vintage ones.
Those are
like
sick.
this, like they're sick. Like, look at the artwork on these. Like, it's like, okay, first of all, you got a Voltorb up here or whatever that no one knew. You got Squirtle down here, you can barely see. Like, looks like we got the freaking Dragon Ball Z ball up here. Like, amazing artwork, whatever. But they're not that hard to display. Like, they don't take up as much room as you'd think. Like, they're really easy. Like, you can get these these sleeves like really, really easily. And it's kind of teasing, this week, I'm going to San Francisco, and I already recorded next week's Market Monday. And so people will get to see some of the jumbos I have. But
nice.
I've really enjoyed these first partner pack jumbos. Like, I think they're super cool. There's something about like the art being blown up, but not like in a grainy way, that like helps you appreciate it even more. And I think that, I don't usually like to talk about things that are underrated that I like, because I'm still after them. But like, there are a lot of those vintage jumbos out there. There's not a lot in great condition, but there's a lot of them out there. Take a look, guys. Coro jumbos. I also don't like to necessarily say, because I don't like to feel like I'm shilling my own stuff, but for gosh sakes, it's a freaking raw jumbo. We're fine. Like,
right.
It's like I don't know, you can get it for like $20 if you're lucky. So like, don't worry about it. I think there's some really cool ones. There's like the Mewtwo one I've been after that has like the surprised Pikachu in the background. There's just good artworks, really good artworks, really fun. I want to have a slabbed one someday at some point.
Do they grade those?
They do. PSA and Beckett do.
No way.
And I bet you CGC will, because they're like the same size as a comic. Now, they are different sizes. So, and I think there's more than just this, but new ones are different size than the old ones. They're smaller. And then, some of the like box toppers and stuff, I think are like, I have one of those like Zubats from Shining that I don't know what size that is. But anyway, I think that CGC will probably end up grading them at some point. And they look really cool in slabs. There's some cool things you can get slab, let me tell you.
I mean, they have the box toppers that you can get graded, and I don't think they're as big as that though, but I could see them grading that. That makes sense.
Yeah. I'm trying to think how big those. Anyway, I'm looking at stuff over there.
Booster box isn't like crazy big. You think of like the ones that come on like Legendary Collection or E Series. It fits in there. So it's definitely bigger, probably about 4 times size than a regular card, but that looked pretty big.
The vintage one's definitely bigger. The vintage one, that's like I measured it before. It's probably like, I don't know, 10 by 8, maybe.
Connor's just
I don't know.
eyeing the heck out of it.
Eyeing it. I'm like,
just beaming, you know?
funny. I got my, yeah, whatever.
And
Yeah.
so,
So that's my underrated for sure.
and so do you think that like, not as many people know about this stuff? Do you think that like, people should be buying the raw versions or the graded versions? Like, is there anything specifically about this? Like, oh, I think it's,
Mm.
underrated because, it's easy to flip. It's easy to, there's not a lot out there. Like, is there any like, a big driving reason for your thesis?
So I would say that, like, first and foremost, it's niche, right?
Yeah.
So, right now, when something's niche and there's not a lot of supply, in a time where supply is abundant for like everything, graded jumbos are going to be super difficult to
Mm,
come by at the right price, I think.
yeah.
I think that as we are evolving into, as you can see, this time where finally displaying, and your background, displaying our collections in a more, I don't know, robust way, I think that jumbos hit that line of non-TC, like the line between TCG and non-TCG items, like from a display point of view, like the pieces of art I have in here. I think they play into that. And so I think that they're a part of the hobby that people are not necessarily focused on buying right now, but I think they could, how do I want to say it? It's like a great way to display a certain Pokemon or a certain artwork that you really love, right? In a way that's like, I don't know, more displayable, right?
Mhm.
Than, a slab, or, like, it's way more affordable for me to get, there's, some jumbos like these that are reprints, right? Like this is the Neophile Chikorita,
Right.
right? Or the one of the alternate arts of Neo Genesis. Like, it's kind of cooler for me to have this like on my desk like this, nice and big, or like at my office on my desk if I wanted to, or on the hanging on the wall in a
Mhm.
frame, than necessarily have like a slab, because you get to appreciate it a little more. It's a little more in your face, and it's more like that artwork appreciation, right? So I think as we transition into a time where like there's a lot more in the display and aesthetic and appreciation of that, what's the term I like to use, like eye appeal of cards,
Mhm.
that people will start to appreciate jumbos more. So yes, they might get more popular, but I still think they're going to be niche for a while, and they could always stay niche. But that's why I really think they're underrated. I think they're like underappreciated. So
Nice. Awesome.
yeah. How about you? What's your underrated for the week?
So beyond first edition base still, I ended up picking up a PSA 7 Clefairy today for $200. I don't know
Nice.
how a first edition WotC Hollow in near mint condition, already graded, ready to go for 200. I don't know how that's possible. So
Oh,
I'll pick.
side note, missed a wicked good auction today. Oh, base 9 Japanese Mewtwo went for like $56 in a CGC 9.
It's crazy,
And
huh?
I'm these freaking auctions that end during the workday.
I was gonna say, when did it
Unbelievable.
end?
Oh, my buddy sent it to me. It must have been like 10:30 in the morning.
Yep. I'm telling you guys, if you have a way to have those notifications on your phone and you can just slip away for, the last 3 minutes of the auction, I've been seeing a lot of good auctions going early in the morning at just really good prices. And on the flip side, I always make sure that when I do list an auction, that it ends on the same within a few days of payday. I always make sure of that. And then I always make sure it ends on a weekend during, usually around 5 to 6 p.m. on a Sunday. Because most people are, kind of have time off, or like maybe they're just like having like family dinner or something and they can kind of check their phone casually, whatever. And that's PST time. And so EST, I don't want to do it too late because I don't want to, but anyways, getting off topic there, but just a little side note.
Agreed. I'm usually 9 o'clock Eastern. So yep. Same thing Sundays. Yep.
Exactly. For me, so beyond first edition base, it's going to be E series 9s and specific WotC 10s. And it's going to really get into my overrated a little bit as well. And I'll kind of save that for them. But for the E series 9s, I mean, today, or maybe even it was yesterday, deal of the day. If you guys don't know, I do Instagram posts where if I come across good deals, I'll let you guys know. And a lot of people seem to really enjoy that because
I do. It's great.
Yeah, they can't watch the market all the time. You know what I'm saying? Like they can't just constantly be doing this stuff. And I'm crazy and I enjoy spending hours on eBay or Instagram. And so I want to let other people know. And, is for PSA 9 Venusaur, so a starter for $235. And even Poker Retro messaged me and he said something funny like that shit's cheap or something like that. Like, like how is it this cheap or something crazy like that? And I totally agree. It's like Expedition, steel product, unweighed packs, getting very tough to find. Booster boxes are extremely expensive. Unweighed packs, you're probably looking at about like $700 to $800, maybe cheaper if you can find the plug, and it's like you pull a starter, you get a hollow, $235. And there's a lot of ones that are like $100. Like some of like there's a lantern from the same seller, PSA 9 from Aquapolis, $125. Like that is very affordable. It's a very great way to collect vintage hollows, high grades on a budget. Like that's really not that bad. So I think that those are a bit underrated in my personal opinion. I don't think that they need to be, crazy high prices, but I just think that they're great value buys, And then for me, WotC 10s, I still think and it's not just all WotC 10s across the board, guys. A lot of this stuff has to do with like primarily first edition. I think a lot of the low pop WotC hollows are at a premium already. People understand population affects price. Who was a gem mint Pokemon that paid like 10 grand for the PSA 10 Unlimited Blissey from Neo Rev, which is like a pop 5 or something crazy.
3,
and he said he still needs
ridiculous.
The Ampharos, Yep. And it's like a pop 1 right now, I think. So like people understand that like there's collectors out there that are looking to complete sets and there's a premium for it. He paid $10,000 for the Slow King from Neo Genesis and Unlimited. He already had the first edition. And so I think that it's not just everything across the board, but I do find a lot of first edition WotC hollows, especially from like Gym Challenge, very popular set, that are going for like not that much money. You can still find them for like $500 to $600, for cards like Ninetales, Nidoking, good like Gen 1 Pokemon, and it just,
if a PSA 10 hollow is going for less than what the unweighed pack is going for,
it doesn't make sense.
You might want to think about it. It's worth thinking about. About. Now, sets with Charizard are going to skew that, right? Because Charizard sets screw up everything with the like how you circle those squares. But yeah, someone pointed out the other day, I think I sent it to you on Instagram, where they were like, gonna buy a PSA 10 first edition for less than the price of a unweighed pack all day long. And I'm like, I can't necessarily argue with that,
even a heavy pack, like in my mind, even a heavy pack, because the odds of you pulling a gem mint vintage card that is 20 plus years old, it's not very good. You know what I'm saying? So it's just like, I'm a guy of like, of data and critical thinking. And to me, when I think about what I want to spend my money on and like what makes sense and what has potential to go up, to me, it's like, this is very apparent. Like it doesn't make sense that somebody would buy into a box break for an unweighed pack for $500 instead of just going on eBay and just buying the PSA 10. Like, I don't know. And if you want to be a part of the experience, like awesome, like great. But I
Right.
genuinely
There's so
think,
much that goes into that, right? But yeah, I
I
agree.
genuinely think there's a lot of people out there who think the opening is a good way to make money, or that like if you do open it, that like, and if you do pull the hollow, it will grade 10, or like, oh, it's pack fresh, like, you know, that whole
Freaking
nomenclature.
pack fresh.
You know, it's crazy to me. And so I don't know. I just feel like there's a lot of cards out there where, like you said, I think if it's at that threshold where the unweighed pack is more than the price of a PSA 10, it's crazy. And there is even a first edition base Raichu PSA 10 that just got listed for $10,500. That blows me away. That blows me away. If I had the capital, I would buy it in a heartbeat. Crazy.
It's it is weird. I've realized this, especially as I've spent a little time on Whatnot again lately, is we have such like a gambling society.
Oh,
like
man.
people people feed off of the endorphin rush of getting that hit, of throwing some money down and for that opportunity. Like there's something about that that's just, it's feeding a lot of this, and that's playing into those pack prices. It certainly is.
Yeah.
You know, Whatnot aside, where like, you know, we won't go into that because the people are raffling things off to the highest bidder, and all of a sudden you got people paying 5x for something just to win the bonus item. But at any rate, it still is adding a premium, like that gamble. Like if I was to go on eBay, like I don't, like, it's part of that experience too, to your point. It definitely is. Like, I'm not going to buy a MetaZoo pack for $19 on eBay, but shoot, to watch Pokemon Radar rip it for me on Whatnot, I was like, yeah, I'll try something once. You know,
Absolutely.
It's a gamble. It's literally a gamble. I'm like, I could buy a lotto ticket, or I could hit the bid, like, and it's, you know, there's, in a bad way, and it can become an addiction for sure. So, but all that to be said, great point. I think that, you know, I think you have to be careful depending on what set it is and what cards are in that set. But I think there is some opportunity there to pick up cards that, you know, you're never going to have the opportunity to pull, right?
Yeah.
Doesn't mean they're necessarily, you know, things could happen with the prices of anything, right? But right now, with the way the ratios stand, it's not, you know, it's not necessarily a bad idea if that's the type of collector you are, right? If that's the you know, part of the hobby you're chasing after and you're spending those dollars. So,
and one more point I forgot to mention about the E Series 9s, they're actually quite low pop. Like most of the 9s from E Series are like 60 or less. When you look at other
dude, I
WotC
got so many saved searches on, they never, they just don't come up.
It's like, it's wild that like you'll have like first edition WotC sets that are printed into Oblivion, you know, Jungle, Fossil, Rocket, and yeah, they're nostalgic and they're awesome, but these cards are holding they're selling for more as compared to something that's printed less. In my opinion, has better artwork for a lot of the E series. They're just phenomenal. I just think that there's just something about those cards that are beautiful, and they're
stupid good. A couple over there, they're unreal.
Yeah, and they're not even just like, oh, it's a little bit less populated. Like, it's like a fourth or a fifth of what these like first edition WotC hollows are going for in PSA 9.
Yeah.
You know, like how much, there's like hundreds and hundreds as compared to, you know, Expedition, Aquapox, Skyridge. You can go look at the pop report. Like, not a lot of them break 60. That's wild.
No, it's crazy.
Yeah.
There's a specific card that I am looking for, either in English or Japanese, and it does not come up often. And
are you willing to share
it?
Up
today? I mean, it's fine. Like, whatever. Like, I really want a Split Earth Flareon.
Okay.
And one came up in English today above my price point, and I was surprised to see someone take it at that price point on an offer. But they do not come up often. It's like it's the best and the worst. Like, it's exciting because it makes you appreciate the long game of collecting.
Yeah.
Like these low pop hollows that people forget, like just because Expedition was the first e-reader set, like the fact that WotC stopped printing after those 3 sets, like it isn't like Skyridge and Aquapolis automatically like have less than Expedition. Like Expedition has way less too, because they didn't just continue. Those sets would get printed for years. And if you look at when those came out, there was a lot of weird stuff then, and there's not a lot of it out there. There's just not. And yeah, I think that's spot on. Those cards in 9s are just great collection pieces. Oh yeah. I like that Charizard, and I'm not a Charizard guy. That's a cool one.
And this card just recently sold for, the one in the market recap I did was $8.98. It sold for less than that at auction. I think it was this morning or yesterday morning. So it sold for, I think, about $850. In the Skyridge Crystal Charizard, granted, I do think that is a better artwork, and it is a crystal, so it's kind of like a shining. It's something special.
Yeah.
Last sold was for $7,000. So it's like less than 1,007, you know what I mean? And so like even within E-Series,
it's a weird gap.
You can really find like crazy good deals still. And I think the Expedition, for it being a base set, because a lot of base sets tend to do very well, and across any type of, era, they usually do, fairly well. I just feel like there's a lot of underrated and underpriced artworks, a lot of cards out there. So that's got to be my big one for this week. How about overrated for you?
Man, I have so many things in this hobby that I think are overrated for so many reasons. So every week I'm just going to pick a random one that I think of. This week's is band cards. Band cards are, for those of you guys out there who don't know, in Japanese sets, some Japanese sets, specifically we'll talk about Gym Heroes and Gym Challenge, there were cards that had artworks that did not end up making it over to English because they were not PC, or they got changed in Japanese before they hit English because they weren't PC. Examples are Koga's Ninja Trick that had a swastika in the background. What do we got? Yep. So we got Sabrina's Gaze on the left there with the middle finger on the Pokeball or on the Master Ball. And then on the right is the swastika with Koga's Ninja Trick. You have the iconic Misty's Tears with Naked Misty from Japanese Leader Stadium, Gym 1. You have Jinx in Gym Challenge that was like, it was like blackface. I actually pulled that one. I pulled it with a Sabrina's Gaze together in the same pack.
Did you get the Charizard out of that pack too? Didn't you pull something crazy out of a Gym Challenge? Japanese?
It was Blaine's Charizard, Blank's Chansey.
Yeah, the Chansey.
Blackface Jinx, and Sabrina's Gaze.
Oh, it
was all of them.
Wow. Unreal.
Yeah, it was literally the pack from heaven. And I pulled it off camera by myself, which was awesome.
Bro, you would call it the God Pack if you were one of the hype channels. God Pack.
Unbelievable. Look at all the shinies. No, it was crazy.
God Pack.
Only one I didn't pull. So there's like secret rares in that set too, which I do not think are rated. I actually think are underrated.
That's a tough one to pull.
Super tough. So if you guys probably can't see, but it's just like the Dark Raichu from Neo Discovery. It has a white star in the corner in Japanese, Neo Discovery. It was in Rocket in English, but secret rare. So they were white stars. Same thing with the Blank's Chansey. But the band cards, they are like, you watch these pack openings, right? Like, he who must not be named will open a box of Japanese gym challenge, my favorite set in all of Pokemon. And it's like every other pack, it's like Sabrina's Gaze, this is a $300 card. Like, there are so many of these guys. Like, and I've watched slowly, like I've watched the prices tick and tick and tick down. Yeah. And I just kind of like find it super funny. I have I have a binder of Gym Challenge, and like I'm still waiting to buy a Koga's Ninja Chick raw, because I'm just like, I don't want like a destroyed one, but I'm also not gonna like overpay for a silly raw card with a swastika on it. Like, that's kind of weird. So yeah, I think that those are an example of a card that how's the best way to put it? It seems like there's a super high demand for them by perception, but you guys have to remember that the supply side is more than plentiful to meet that demand.
And just to reinforce that, just to echo that, both of these cards were pulled and graded by myself. The band cards, they were pulled and graded by myself.
10-9.
Yeah, 10-9. One was from the returns I got a couple months ago. I got the 10 Sabrina, and then the other one was from this last sub that I got, last week. And I've opened up 2 Gym Challenge packs myself, and I sent 2 packs for Rusty to open up on his channel. So out of 4 packs, I pulled 2 band cards. So it's not like they're these very rare.
Sounds about right.
Like the Imakuni's Doduo. It's not like that very, god tier rarity where it just doesn't come out of packs. You just don't see it often. So,
I have not seen one of those come out of all those. Like, I've seen Blank's Chansey. I haven't seen one Imakuni's Doduo.
I haven't either. And I've watched a lot of the box
any of those.
breaks.
A lot of those. Yeah, because I love that set and I love seeing it. And I haven't seen like any of them, man. It's great. I was talking to a buddy about it too, guys. This is about, being educated in the hobby. This is why 300 yen Gym Challenge packs in Japanese go for less than 291 yen, because most likely the corrected versions are in the 300 yen packs, because those were printed later because what happened was in Japan, there was a tax change in a certain year. And so they started including that extra tax into the price on the pack, which is why it went from 291 to 300. And you will not see, like, we were joking because like someone pulled the Sabrina's Gengar out of one and there's no graveyard background, like, because they had corrected it. So
on the Japanese side or the English side?
Japanese. Yep. So they like, same with Koga's Ninja Trick. I have the, where is it? I think it's this one. Nope, that's Boy Schwartz and Harry Potter. I have it somewhere. I will pull it up. But yeah, they corrected the.
Yeah, I remember seeing it, and like I feel like that would be almost like more rare.
It's kind of funny because when you think it's the same with like it's like with the what's the card I'm thinking of? Oh, the birds, the Black Star promos, how like the one with the wrong artist on it is like population 1 million, and the one with Kimura as the actual artist is like pop 5. Yeah. So I don't know. I actually don't know that. If it is, that's even more hilarious, because it means that the band cards are even more overrated than I thought originally. Yeah, I don't know if I don't think we could ever know. Like, I don't think we could ever know. You have to think that there are less banned ones, because they probably corrected it fairly soon and then printed those sets to scale. But I don't know, because in Japan things get printed differently.
We need to
they
pull
print
in
off
some
the
type of expert.
I know. I know. I wonder. I'm just gonna dive into E4. I'll probably be able to find it.
Oh,
So,
I'm sure you could.
people, the data sets they've put together on this stuff,
It's unreal.
crazy to me. It's unreal. So, how about for you? What's overrated for you this week?
So I have two things. So I have WotC sealed and I have ETBs.
Mm.
So
Okay.
for the ETBs, again, not across the board, but it blows me away that some of these black and white era ETBs, which I believe are the first, or maybe it's the X and Y. No, X and Y came after. I think it is black and white. They first started doing the ETBs.
Mhm.
I'm
I
99.9%
think
sure,
so.
and that's why they're
Yeah.
so expensive. And literally, the ETBs you can buy are more expensive than the booster boxes themselves. And yes, it's kind
Mm.
of like the argument of like PSA 10 unlimited to first edition. PSA 10, like a lot of unlimited is less pop. So it's like, is it more rare? Like, how much do we like, value that first edition symbol? But to me, it's like very clear that I much rather have a booster box for a cheaper price than the ETB. Like,
Mm.
there's only so much that cardboard and plastic can do, in my opinion. Like the contents of what's
Mm.
inside has to play some type of role, because if that's the same like logic, like, this pin box that I have over there, if there's only a couple in the world and they're selling for more than booster boxes, like it just seems very off. You know what I mean? So for me, I just find that I've seen a lot of ETBs that are really, really expensive. And I honestly just don't get it. Now, I think that there are some really good value ETBs that you can still get. I think the Hidden Fates one is pretty even keel. In fact, you look at like Shining
I
Legends,
just
and I think Shining Legends are selling for like $400 to $500 for an ETB or something like that. But the Hidden
mm.
Fates, you get that beautiful birds promo, you get 10 packs, like that's pretty, and they're selling for about 140 on average. You can even find them a little cheaper at auction sometimes. That's not too bad.
I just got a real good deal. I just got one for 100.
Yeah. I mean, if that grades,
Very good deal.
if that
But
promo grades PSA 10, you're looking at $100 right there. Not even the
mhm.
packs. And every single
Yeah.
promo that I have graded from those, because I've graded a few, have come back 10. Now it's a super small sample pool, but I think that there's still value and there are still good ETB buys that you can do.
Mm. Side note, do you
There's
grade
a
them
few.
sealed or do you pull them out?
Say what?
I'm curious. Do you grade them sealed or do you pull them out of the plastic and grade them?
I've never graded one sealed before. I've thought
Mhm.
about it, and I have a couple actually I've saved so that when PSA
Yeah.
does reopen, I will send those in, because on the card I can see a little nick. So it would
Mm.
be make more financial sense to, because they grade the pack. They're not grading the card if you
Yeah.
keep it sealed,
Yeah.
for those who don't know. So
Yeah. Yeah.
I have a couple minty pack ones,
Interesting.
but the cards itself aren't as good. So that's kind of my first one.
Huh.
And then the second one is WotC sealed. I just see there's so much supply for WotC still, unless you're talking a first edition base or shadowless, maybe even LC. LC is pretty tough to come across. Skyridge, Expedition, Aquapolis. I feel like those sets are just in a league of its own, because you just don't see anything out there. But for the Jungle, Fossil, Rocket, even the gyms, like stuff that I love, these sets that I absolutely love, there's so much available on eBay that have just, certain listings have been sitting for months,
How much
months,
how much
months,
how many base unlimited boxes do you think are left in existence?
thousands. I heard
Yeah,
TCA Gaming talk about that. He
maybe
said,
tens of
he
thousands.
said, I can source 1,000 boxes easily right now if I wanted to.
Yeah,
And they're
crazy.
one of the most expensive boxes right now, just because of like, it's the first set and people aren't educated. They don't know. They think because it's the first, it's got to be the less amount out there, but they don't know. They aren't researching. They aren't listening to guys like me and you talk about this stuff and soaking this stuff in. You know what I'm saying? Like, and this is where like data comes from, because we sit there and listen to guys who talk about this stuff, you know?
That's why this is underrated. It
Beautiful.
does not make sense. It does not make
Shadowless, I know,
sense
man.
why a long crimp,
I know.
as close you get to guarantee without guaranteeing, shadowless pack can sell for a fraction of a first edition and not that much more than what people are trying to sell unlimited for. I mean, it is
Unlimited
truly
blisters
crazy
are
to me.
going for like 700 to 750. And what'd you get that for? 1K, 900?
Yeah, about yeah, just under 1K, I think, maybe over with taxes.
Unreal. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
So I definitely think, and again, not across the board. I just feel like there's a lot of sets out there that people don't understand how much supply is still on the
yeah,
market, and people that are like, you know, hoarding the Evo boxes. You know, like people are still doing that with WotC. Like they're still hoarding it, and then the prices they list are super expensive, and nobody's willing to buy it because at the end of the day, you have to do some type of analysis of like what is inside the contents of this box that's driving it to be so expensive. Is it the potential
yeah.
pulls? You know, is it because the low pop cards? Like, is it because the pack cards are very sought after? Like, is it because it's a very well printed set and people want to open up well printed cards? Like, what is it that's driving the price of these boxes? And I feel like people are just saying, "Oh, it's sealed WotC, that's why," and it makes no sense. Like, you're ignorant. You know what I'm saying? And so, for me,
Yeah.
like, I feel like a lot of booster pack prices, unweighed packs, you're paying like $400 to $500. You're not even guaranteed a hollow. And even I think even a heavy pack for 400 to 500 is insane, unless these cards, the graded slabs, are much higher than what they are currently. And that's why I feel it's like that underrated for the slabs, overrated for the seal. There's too big a gap, you know?
Yeah.
So
It's like we
that's just
touched
me.
on last, it's like we touched on last podcast, is that there has to be more of a convergence, right, between these prices.
Yeah.
There's a dislocation one way or the other, and it now, of course, they could both fall too, right? But booster packs could just fall faster, or in a greater magnitude, I guess. But you could say at least, hopefully, cards hold constant and pack prices have to come down because the delta doesn't make as much sense. Again, Charizard screws everything up, but still on average, it doesn't, it just, I look, I'm not like the most educated person. I probably know a lot more about Japanese and Japanese print runs than I do English, but obviously having collected this stuff a long time and doing what I do and being absorbed in this hobby, just like you, in this market, and I've talked about this in videos, like a student of the market, right? Like
Exactly.
studying the history, studying the historical significance, like listening, whatever you think of Gary or whatever you think of whoever, like guys who have been here since day one,
Mm-hmm.
have some knowledge and drop some nuggets that are just like, if you're listening, you can start to really form this understanding of what the real like dynamics are in the hobby, and know that like there are people behind the scenes who are just pulling people's strings, man. I mean, it's just like, it's crazy to me. Like I think about it with sealed, and I think about it with a lot of Black Star promos, like people who are hoarding it and who are so savvy and just drip it out into the market publicly and privately,
Mm-hmm.
just over and over again. And people don't realize there is just, it's that like, it's the trap of, it's vintage sealed, the supply can only go down. Well, yes, but you don't actually know that there's 10 times as much supply as you think there
Yeah.
is.
Yeah.
So factor that in and then come back
And
to me. And that's what worries me. People don't get that. They don't know. They don't
yeah.
know.
And I absolutely agree with that. It's so important. And I've heard SM Pratt talk about this specifically because somebody's asked, they keep asking on his monthly market recap video for Patreon. It's a
Mhm.
paid thing, and you can ask him any question at the beginning of each video, and then throughout the month he'll release videos doing the first 50 questions and the last 50 questions of the video. And people all the time ask him like, how much this do you have, how much that do you have, da 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 da, and he says the same answer every single time. He says, I can't tell you that because it would disrupt the market. And it's like, just think about that. Like if he said how many, let's just say, give an example, how many first edition
Anything. It
whatever,
doesn't matter. You don't have to give it away.
anything,
It's
Skyridge
whatever.
boxes, anything. And he
Anything.
says, I
Yeah.
have 100. It's going to drive prices down because people are going to be like, oh shit, like, why am I spending
Yep.
so much money over that? Because, like you said, scarcity, fear of missing out. It's only going to come up once a year. I got to buy it now. Like, all that plays such a huge factor into price, you know?
Think about this. Think about this event Leonhardt's doing, right? Think about how much sealed product he's going to be giving away. Like, guys, that means there's that much sealed product out
Right.
there. And that's just one guy. That's
Right.
just one guy. I mean, you
Yeah.
look at
Dude, so
Rev,
true.
look at all, like, there are people with literally storage lockers of unlimited. I mean, just stacks and stacks of it. And I always laugh about this to myself. I think about it in like where there's certain cards where I like know I'm gonna have to wait so long for the price to come down
Yeah.
to where I
Oh
want, because I
man.
know the demand's there,
Yeah.
but I know how much supply is in the back end. And the one I always specifically think about is I guess what you would say is the younger brother, so the one that came after to this card, and that's the Black Star EV Hollow promo that has the tri-colored holographic.
Beautiful card.
I want one more than anything. There's actually the 10 population is pretty low. The
Oh, it's
9
very
is
low.
unbelievable. The 10 is super, like, it's really hard to get 10. Having a 10 in that card would be like a true 10 would be quite a collection piece.
Yeah.
But I know raw, there are just like, I think people just have cases of them,
Yeah.
cases and cases of them. Probably straight from frickin', I forget how it was released, but wherever it came from. Like, there are so many of those, and that's why I'll just like wait forever.
Yep.
10 years. I don't know, like, get lucky. Even like trading it for a certain amount, it's like not even worth it. I'm like, there's so many of these. Like, I'll be able to get a 9 of that anytime I want in the future, and that's how you have to think about a lot of stuff in this hobby, or else you're gonna just burn out quick and run out of money. So
Yeah. And it's funny because like I had like when I had that opportunity, like when I made that sale and I had some funds and I'm like literally spending days and days of like, what am I going to get the most bang for my buck? Like I can spend like $30,000 is a lot. And like I put some back obviously, but let's just say 25, to like spend on Pokemon. And part of it I wanted to spend on like, potentially long-term holds, stuff that I think is going to do well over the next, 1 to 10 years, depending on a price point that it reaches, just whenever that is. And then others, for my PC. And so it's like, there's so many options with 25K that I can go after, like so many different avenues. Do I want to buy a shit ton of promos and try to grade those and go that route? Or do I want to buy, heavy packs, blisters, boost boxes? What is the route I want to go? PSA 10s. And ultimately, like I was looking at first edition Gym Heroes on the English side because it's one of my favorite booster boxes. So I love looking at it, and it just makes me so happy seeing the Erica and the Misty. I love it.
yeah.
But I was like, I can get this down the line. I can wait. I don't need it now because I just don't think that it's going to go up as quick as some other stuff. And so that's why I ultimately went with the vintage Japanese boxes, is because there's much less of it out there. It is more niche, riches are in the niches, it's getting more popular. Absolutely. Don't get me wrong. And the fundamentals are better. You get a hollow in every single pack. The condition of the cards are much better. Do you want to do box breaks or whatever? People want to open this stuff,
You have a
which
lot of
people do.
optionality.
Your chances of it grading higher than English are significantly higher. So all those factors I'm like looking at, and it's just like, I don't care if Japanese isn't as popular as English. This makes sense, and so that's why I went that route. And it just kills me because if you gave the option to, I don't know, 90% of collectors, it says, hey, would you rather have a first edition WotC box or this Japanese box? They'll probably go with first edition English because they think, oh, it's first edition. It's much better. It's, whatever. And it's just, it's crazy,
Yeah. When I was considering buying a Japanese Gym Challenge box, I think you got an awesome deal for your boxes. Like I
Awesome.
think you got a super, super good deal.
Unreal.
I haven't seen the fossil one, but I've seen pictures of the jungle one in video, and it is like almost like I know that box, and it's gorgeous.
And that's sorry, one last thing
Yeah,
to
no, please do.
for my point is that the price points were the same for the first edition Gym Heroes or the two WotC boxes. They were both at 10K. And so that's very important as well, because it's not like, oh, first edition WotC at 8K and then the WotC Japanese at 12 or what. So they were the same price point. So I just wanted to throw that out there.
No, that it kind of feeds into what I was going to say is that, guys, like, if anyone's still watching this or listening to this at this point, which I think people will, because people like to listen to people talk about Pokemon. Here's a
procrastinators at work.
Here's a nugget for you. Okay. We don't take spending that kind of money lightly. Okay. When I was considering buying a Japanese gym challenge box, which is, I had a price point higher than what you paid for yours. They're probably more rare than,
oh, definitely.
And maybe definitely than jungle, maybe not. Then it depends. Anyway,
it is.
Especially in mint condition. This is a beautiful box. I spent an inordinate amount of time based on historical prices and current market prices, trying to back my way into what I felt like the relative value should be between that Japanese box and like the English equivalent.
Mm-hmm.
And that helped me form what I was comfortable with as a price point. And we just couldn't quite get there. And that's why I didn't end up doing that deal. And also for me, to some of our earlier points, it would have tapped me out of a lot of capital. It would have been like, okay, now I have to sell for everything I want to buy to feel comfortable with my position. And just for me, it just wasn't, I got to open as much EV Hero as I wanted instead. And it's a long game, right? So like, it's like, what I'm trying to say is like, it's a lot. Yeah, no, I didn't spend that much, my God. But it's like, it's basically allowing me to like I can, buy little cards, packs, and little boxes,
go to events,
and to do things. Yeah, go to events. Like I'm going to Richmond for Legends Expo. Shout out Legends Expo. It's going to be awesome. Charlie Herlocker, you're going to put on a great event. I'm stoked. But yeah, it's like a lot of thought goes in that decision, guys. And you have to like, and a big reason why I ended up doing it too is because it was before you got your boxes, like at a more hypey period.
Yeah, it was.
Where now it came from a very trusted seller who was being excruciatingly fair to me, like wicked fair to me, I think. But I was also uncomfortable with the time frame in which I was making that purchase. And it wasn't like you, where I had made a huge sale in Pokemon. I was recycling capital. For me, it was, what am I going to do with some more fresh capital I have from XYZ thing I did?
Right.
So it's a lot to think about, guys. And it all comes back to understanding like what you're, how much money and capital you're comfortable having in this hobby, right? And just the illiquidity that comes with that. You can't leverage these assets like you can a house or stocks or bonds, right? You can't borrow against it. You can't collateralize it. Like it's highly illiquid. It's slow to move. Like even now, like unless it's like a fire sale, it's can't just move this stuff easily. It's got a lot of friction to it. So it both Rob and I think a lot when we decide to put that much capital to work in a hobby, and in cardboard. So,
dude, I think a lot with I'll go crazy.
I
over
agonize
like
over
$100
$30 cards. Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. I agonize over but that makes us better. It's just it's a habit, right?
Yeah.
We are repeatedly making like those prudent decisions and analyzing those situations to the when it comes to the big deals, you know, it's like practice. It's like practice for the championship game.
Definitely.
You know, when we're going in to negotiate a deal for a 10, 20, $30,000, you know, box someday, whatever, you've had all the practice in the world because you've analyzed it over and over and over again. You're in the market, you understand the dynamics, and you're not going to burn yourself, you know?
Yeah.
And sometimes you buy a
man.
$500 Harry Potter box just because you don't care.
Yeah.
But usually you think about it.
Yeah, I think like for me, it's just as simple as the way of life, you know, like this is how I go about like everything in my life. Like
how you do one thing is how you do everything.
Yeah.
Like I know it's over, like people, like it's true. It's true because we have fundamental integrities and fundamental theses that play out throughout our life. And it's like, it's really about being disciplined. That's what it is.
Absolutely.
Now what's happening in this hobby is people are FOMOing and they are seeing the hype and they are spending in like the most undisciplined manner ever just because, you know, they saw their friend do it and they think they should too. And that's not always right for you, you know, and you can't necessarily teach that, but you can cultivate it a little over time with some practice, you know, and some, I don't know, putting yourself through difficult situations, you know, not taking the soft route all the time. It bleeds out into collecting, into all these aspects of your life. Like it truly allows you to make better decisions. It's like I say, you know, it's hokey, but it's like collect what you love, but do it intelligently.
Yes.
Like,
yes.
Critical thinking. It's like I said, critical thinking will get you a long way in this world because guys, I can tell you, fewer and fewer people are thinking critically about anything. And if you do, and you position yourself in the right way and are, you know, very thoughtful with your actions, you can end up being in a much better place down the road than many of your counterparts, and can allow you to really succeed in this life and enjoy it, you know, in a lot of ways, instead of regretting impulsive decisions. So that's our therapy session for today, guys.
Yeah. Had to get that out there to the public. Yeah, man.
Yeah,
I
man.
I'm about.
I started my channel, so I mean, it's we both just want what's best for people. So
yeah, absolutely,
here, guys.
Yeah. I got about 5% left on the computer here, so I think it's a good time.
Perfect timing, man. We crushed that one, guys. Thank you for listening. Rob, thanks for getting this kicked off with me. Having such a blast. We will probably have a name by the next one, guys. Maybe not. Don't hold us to it. It's fine. But
let us know.
I'm Connor from Rock Pokemon.
I'm Rob from Red or Blue. Thanks, guys, so much for watching. We'll catch you on the next one.
See you on the next one, guys. Be good.